So I'm someone who grew up obsessed with books and reading. As early as I can remember, books were a place for me to feel safe, for me to feel belonging, for me to feel a sense of magic and connection and wonder, all threads that still, are strongly woven throughout my life now. And my parents would even say, we have like home videos of me pretending to read books before I even talked. Like I would just babble and sing with the book open in my lap, making up some story and some secret, baby language. So, the journey for me from, being in love with reading to being in love with writing was really, early on in elementary school. I remember writing poems for, competitions and, vividly remember this long fiction story assignment that we had for language arts, and that only continued to grow as I got older. I mean, high school, I was pretty, adamant that language arts was my favorite subject, that AP Lit was my favorite subject. And, my history with that, especially my high school, my senior year, my literature teacher was just that I felt like writing was such a vast open space, with so many voices and so many ways to approach whatever you're writing about, which I experienced both in a classroom where, we all had the same assignment and yet we all came out, with very different things, but also in books, where I had read so many different versions of a story that taught female empowerment or taught the hard lessons of coming of age. And I think for me, when I started to get feedback and critique, while I am a perfectionist and, still to this day would strive for the least amount of red marks possible, I really loved the experience of feeling really listened to when receiving critique from a teacher. I think as I've gotten, I'm in my 30s now, but as I've gotten older, I've had the immense gift of having groups of friends who share their writing, and, we'll gather together in a coffee shop or online. And those spaces tend to be so tender and supportive and encouraging, but rarely ever spaces of critique. I think a lot of people experience that in college because I am someone who dropped out of community college and had a totally different path in my 20s. I feel like I really missed out on the experience of the attention of, literary criticism. And as someone who was obsessed with literature and had really fallen in love with the rhythm of trusting an idea, getting it onto the page, editing it myself, and then receiving critique from a teacher on, the through line or grammar or something I intended to get across that didn't. That rhythm, I think, became so important to me. So while in my 20s I've had experiences with friends and other writers where we meet in a coffee shop and we encourage each other and hear each other's writing, there was still a part of me that felt like an imposter as a writer, where the feeling is well, all these people are just being nice to me. They don't know if my writing's actually good, or if they do, they're not telling me. That's not really the relationship I have in these spaces. And so it has been so encouraging and really just unlocking for me to receive feedback from my writing instructor, because it's both, you will send a letter back and forth with your assignment. So I sent my first letter of introduction, which talked about, my history of like loving writing and reading. And then I received a letter back from my instructor as well with her edits and like feedback on my writing. So there was, encouragement in that letter, and then also, grammar corrections and just the direction of like, I think we should go with this idea, or this feels really strong to me, this feels really clear. And it just truly has so immediately quieted the voices of imposter syndrome, and really just reinforced this idea that like, if you're writing, you're a writer, and and you can take that writing in so many directions, but the first step is just to be writing. So I'm really grateful for the feedback. It's probably one of the parts of this writing course that I'm most excited about, is just to have a mentor and instructor to really look at my writing with an editor's eye, and to give feedback both like academically, but then also just as a reader, with what feels resonant and strong. So I, got the first assignment out of the way, and I'm just really thrilled already with the experience of working on this course and of having this instructor. So yeah, more to come.